Next integral, example 14 here, we have 1 divided by x to the 6th. So we got to bring back some of those basic algebra skills here, and remember that we can rewrite that and change the exponent to its opposite. So we can rewrite this integral as x to the minus 6th. This is where you got to remember and be careful here when we're undoing the power rule. Okay, it's going to be negative 6 plus 1 over negative 6 plus 1. So remember, negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Alright, so we end up with x to the negative 5th over negative 5 plus c. And then if we need to, we rewrite that without a negative exponent. That guy goes back downstairs, so we can have it as negative 1/5 or negative 1/5 and then 1 over x to the 5th plus c. Alright, let's take a look at example 15. We have y squared times the square root of y. Remember, the square root of y can be rewritten as y to the 1/2. And since we have y squared times y to the 1/2, they have the same base. So the power rule is when we have the same base and we're multiplying the two functions, we add the exponents. So y squared times y to the 1/2, okay, ends up being y to the 5/2. So now we're going to integrate y to the 5/2. So when we do that, alright, the antiderivative, we have to take 5/2 plus 1 divided by 5/2 plus 1. So 5/2 plus 1, remember that 1 turns into 2 over 2. So 5/2 plus 2 over 2 is 7/2, and then divided by 7/2. This is like what we've seen before, though. When we have a fraction in the denominator, we got to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 2/7. Alright, remember the denominator goes away, so we end up with 2/7 y to the 7/2 plus c. Alright, this one, we got to be able to vision that we can separate this into two separate fractions. Okay, when we have a function, we have x plus 1 all over a common term of the square root of x. We can break that into two separate fractions. Okay, that'll help us do some reducing. So we can break that into x over square root of x plus 1 over square root of x. Then we will rewrite everything. So x over x to the 1/2 plus 1 over x to the 1/2. When we do that, alright, we'll see right here that we have the integral of x to the 1/2 plus x to the minus 1/2. These don't cancel each other, so don't think that that gets 0. Now it's just undoing the power rule. Alright, we've done a couple of these already. We should be able to do that and move forward. And once again, email me if you have any questions on these. But once we get these, alright, we can combine these terms and simplify that. The difference between these answers here is really just kind of rewriting out x to the 1/2 is the square root of x, or so on and so forth. But we can factor out some common things here. So in this expression, we've factored out a 2x to the 1/2, so we're left with x over 3 plus 1. That's really what we did here, is we factored out a 1/2. So when we factor 1/2 there, we leave that 1x sitting right there. Okay, so go ahead and email me if we have any questions on this one. The next video, we're going to go over a bunch of trig functions, and we'll round out that.